In the Gospel of John, Jesus refers to Satan as the father of the lie. Implied is that Jesus knows truth. Jesus knows religious truth. He knows ultimate truth. And Satan deliberately deceives others. Truth and falsehood ride the continuum inherent in all ideologies. We struggle to remain on the side of truth. And implicit in doing that is an awful lot of trust. After all, how much do we really know about truth? How much do we really know what is truth about God and sin and redemption? And so, as a result, we trust religious authorities to guide us in embracing what is true. We believe that our religious leaders are filled with integrity and honor, and thus will neither lie nor deceive us. It's a huge trust. It's a huge faith that we place in religious authorities. And yet there are lies all the time in religion. Some are blatant lies like Jesus hates homosexuality, or God wants men to control women's reproductive rights. But these are justified by religious leaders intent on creating what they would consider a better society. White lies, we convince ourselves, are necessary in life. We all know that, and we all practice it too. In medicine, we know so little, and so we trust physicians to speak the truth. And yet, there is plenty of justification for lying to the sick and dying. By withholding the brutal truth, the physician protects the patient from anxiety and fear. People lie to sick family members all the time, hoping to produce a better quality in their decline, or what's ever left in their existence. In a similar manner, parents tell white lies to their children all the time for their own good, to protect the child's self-esteem, if nothing else. We're not going to say, you're a lousy soccer player. Well, we may think that, but so we got to protect the kid's self-esteem. God, you're good on that field. You know, I have even heard rumors that lies and deceptions are found in politics. I don't know, is that true? And yet government was always an institution we innately trusted because who else, when you think about it, who else would safeguard our interests, our rights, even our lives? In Cold War America in the 1950s, when the enemy was so clearly defined and we were properly indoctrinated to mistrust anything Russian and trust everything American, it was like believing in Jesus and they were Satan. They were the liars. Do we not applaud people who commit acts of civil disobedience for following a higher and nobler truth? In one case, in which we are all very familiar, Tim de Christopher's strategic white lie gained him access to the auction. He went down there, they said, are you a bidder? And, well, he didn't tell the truth, did he? He said, yes, I'm a bidder. And he got the panel number 70, and we'd like to justify that particular deception because it really was for a higher and more noble purpose. The frustration on the part of Tim's defense counsel rested with the judge denying the defense to at least explain the motives, for the defense to explain the higher truth that Tim embodied and worked for and was loyal to. And so without this explanation, without this clear understanding, without the context of what this was really all about, well, then Tim was exposed as a fraud, a liar, a purveyor of untruth. He might as well have been Satan. Now, one of the great ethicists of our time, Cicely Bach, comments on how interesting this muddle is, in which sometimes we insist it's okay to lie. Then how do we come to understand, if it's okay to lie in certain circumstances, how do we come to understand what is morally right or wrong? Cicely Bach proposes that not all lying is immoral because you may legitimately feel that you have access to truth. Now, religious documents or revelations, for example, claim to convey, of course, what is true. If you are a believer, you may be living with error, but not necessarily untruth. The issue really revolves around intention. Did you intend your statement to mislead? Do we intend for others to believe that which we do not believe ourselves? That's kind of how we weigh the ethics of lying or not. But the field of morality continues with the profound question of whether or not all people are owed truthfulness. In other words, do you feel compelled to tell the truth to a thief? Are there not circumstances when intentionally misleading statements are allowed? If so, then there are some falsehoods that do not count as lies. Does not morality include an evaluation to determine the wisdom of intentionally offering misleading statements and thereby deceiving others? So to complicate matters just a bit further, how do we know that we are not delusional in thinking that our intentionally misleading statements are justified by a greater good? And so in this whole realm of lying, deception, truthfulness, truth and falsehood, lying, deception, justification for deceit, these are all real hot potatoes. Now, Energy Solutions insists that imported low-level radioactivity is safe. Kennecott justifies its expansion of the Bingham mine as safe while following EPA guidelines. But aren't these statements also misleading in that so much science and regulations have been deliberately circumvented? But on the other hand, more jobs are created, more tax money goes into municipal coffers, fulfilling a global need to clean up waste. All these seem to justify deliberate, misleading statements from these respective industries. The professional ethicist who spends sleepless nights thinking about such things would ultimately ask, can you imagine a society, no matter how ideal, can you imagine a society where the word of officials could never be counted upon? That would mean that the answers to our questions would be worthless. So then, can we not conclude that some level of truthfulness is essential to human society? Let me say it one more time. Some level of truthfulness is essential to human society. Samuel Johnson, the 18th century poet and moralist, claimed, and rightfully so, that even the devils themselves did not lie to one another, since society in hell could not subsist without truth any more than any other society. What happened to our society January 27th, 1951, when a 1-kiloton bomb dropped from an airplane and detonated over Frenchman Flat, marking the beginning of atmospheric nuclear testing in Nevada? The ideological truth at that time, that which justified all that happened, the truth at that time, as powerful as any religious claim, was that the United States had to maintain nuclear weapons superiority. Why? Because the conflict in Korea justified it. Las Vegas was chosen because of its low population density, a prevailing wind blowing away from a more populous West Coast, and hundreds of miles of government-controlled land. When the nuclear cloud eventually dissipates after detonation, there is so much that remains invisible to the eye. And this is then where people's faith in the trustworthiness of their leaders takes place. Now, as in religion, which concentrates almost exclusively on things not seen, faith itself is understood in believing that which is not seen. So when the laity in religion as well as the laity in nuclear armaments are informed about that which they cannot see, well, trust in the people who are telling you what you cannot see. Trust is absolutely paramount. The very threads of a tenuous society are held in place by the belief that no intentional misleading statement was ever rendered. Now, there may be incorrect statements about radioactivity, as science may have made some errors in calculating the risk of exposure to radiation. But if society is to be held together, the government simply cannot lie to its citizens. Now, the Atomic Energy Commission promised assurances of safety. Residents who lived downwind naturally believed what they were told. Would our government ever put our health in danger? This is not Russia. This is America. This is the great land where our leaders underscore a faith in things not seen as an orthodox and patriotic way of life.